what's up you guys, my name is Swati and welcome back to my channel where if the book is nice, we read it twice. Today I'm gonna do a worst to best list once again. These are my 10 recent reads, read them mostly in the month of August. And without further ado, let's begin. Now this list is worst to best, and the first book I want to talk about is by Emma Clement. So this is the literary fiction where a drifter named Alec, who is dumped by her boyfriend who was also providing for her lodging. So she had to get out of and be a homeless person, but instead of trying to stand on her feet, what she does is she tries to grift her way into a situation where his life is tolerable. She then manipulates multiple of people, and what happens next is what this book is all about. Now this is a literary fiction and I falsely thought it was a thriller because on Goodreads it was marked as a thriller selection, but I must say I didn't find this element thrilling, but I found it extremely suspenseful, in the sense you were also always a little tense about the situation because the things kept getting worse and worse and worse, and it kind of gave a helpless kind of a feeling. It made me uncomfortable, but since the main character was not likable as she manipulated people, as well as the other people were also not likable, by the end of it I was just glad that the book ended. I did not care about the movement of plot too much, and that's a good thing because it did not have too much of a plot. The writing was exquisite and that's why it gets an extra star for writing, but all in all a very disappointing read, so I gave it 2 stars. Next book I want to talk about is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. Now I have already told you on my channel that I have unhauled this book, and that is for the reason the way it ended. Now to give a little context, this book is about a 80-year-old grandma calls all her family members to celebrate her own birthday. Daisy Darker and her entire family has been avoiding each other, and they finally meet up on her birthday. But what happened next will astound everybody. Nana was killed, and after that every 1 single hour a person started to die. So this is a close circle, isolated mystery. It happens all a tiny tidal island, and since there were no outsiders, the killer must have been among them. The story had me. I would say throughout the book I went ahead thinking it was a 4-star, but then it came to a point where the twist was so ridiculous that I ended up giving it 2-star. It's like you are being cheated. That's what I felt when I read this book, because it's stated and established one thing and then goes on to tell that was a lie. Also, the final twist of the book was so ridiculous that it made the story laughable. So strong words there, but yes, this is a 2-star. The next book I want to talk about is my first 3-star. This is The 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Now Holly Jackson is famous for the Good Girl Guides to Murder series, and everybody was very highly anticipating this book. But 5 Survive did not play through for others. For me, it's middle of the road situation. Now what the book is about, there are 6 friends for 8 hours and 1 sniper. The story is simple. These 6 friends and acquaintances go in an RV to celebrate a vacation, but on the way they end up in a region where there is almost negligible cell service. Worse, they tire punches, only for them to realize that it wasn't an accident because it happened to all 4 of their tires and somebody is shooting their bus. Worst, they heard a sound somehow implanted in the bus where the person was letting them know that he was about to kill one of them. So this is a story of 8-hour survival story. It was very pacey. The best part about it was most of the text in this was dialogues, so you went through it very breezily and it was interesting, right to the point that the interconnecting of the characters became a little melodramatic, and the end was something that brought it down. But nowadays I'm seeing a trend in thrillers to be a little chaotic, and it had the right chaotic energy, so that's why it was a completely good fun read which I enjoyed a lot. So that's why I gave this one a 3-star. The next 3-star that I want to talk about is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Now Riley Sager has not been doing well since last 2 books, which I have not read, but I have heard such bad things about them that I don't want to taint my experience of Riley Sager with it. That being said, I will read them. But he has become one of my auto-buy authors because I love Home Before Dark, and I also liked Lock Every Door. So at 16, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. So basically that's the setup of the book. Lenora Hope's family died in a tragic murder situation, and everybody was dead except for Lenora, and worse, nobody was in the house except for Lenora. So everybody thought Lenora did it. She refused, but nobody believed her, and now she is a 80-year-old lady living in her old family house, and she requires a caretaker to take care of her. The caretaker has heard the town rumors, and hence she comes and try to find out what happened. During this investigation, she also finds out that the caretaker before her disappeared suddenly at the night. Many things ensue, and Lenora tried to even tell this caretaker what her life ensued. So all in all, this is a great setup. Also, this is this has gothic touch to it. This is a gothic story where the mansion has its own creepy, tilty way of being in the story, and which is very entertaining. I must say, this is not one of the ones for logic and brains. It has few loose ends. The twists of some of them are a little too ridiculous, but love the atmosphere, and the characters were very well established. That you can say for Riley Sager's every other book as well. I absolutely liked this one, not loved, but I gave it 3 stars. So the next book I want to talk about is The Drift by C.J. Tudor. This has been getting a mixed review on Goodreads, and people who read it are divisive. Some of them loved it, some of them I read it and I loved it. So take my recommendation with a grain of salt. This is a book that you can love if you love dystopians or a zombie apocalypse, which was the semi situation in this book. We follow 3 people. First is Hannah, who wakes up in a upended bus where many of the people are already dead, and some of them just crying and trying to survive. Meg, who is on a cable car in middle of nowhere, suspended with other people still waking up, still not woken up from their stupor, and she realizes their clothes are all identical, and she doesn't remember where she is going or where she is coming from. She does not even recognize the people she is with. And the third one is Carter, who is in a remote ski chalet. They are trying to keep their electricity running and keep something out. So these 3 very separate stories move on in a very pacey format, and at the end it comes together to form a beautiful story. I would say did not like the ending here as well, but there was no other scope for ending in this book. So the way the stories came together was very interesting. I gave this dystopian 4 stars. Now the next book and the first 5-star on the list is The Passenger by John Mars. Now I have read John Mars the one. I keep on recommending John Mars the one, and The Passenger comes really close. It's my second favorite John Mars. And in this book, basically you get into a cab which is autopiloted. You are locked in and you suddenly realize you have lost all control. Suddenly you hear a voice that says you are about to die. So this is a thriller aspect. This is what happened with 8 to 9 different people, and all of them were converging towards one point where these so-called terrorists or the people behind the situation had a plan for them. So this is something which keeps you at the edge of your seat, because every chapter is a cliffhanger, and how the position of every person escalate with the escalation of the story is very interesting. I absolutely loved this one. The characters were intriguing enough so that you wanted to see what happens at the end with them, and the ending was little dragged on, but still it is a 5-star. The next book that I want to talk about is Yellow Space by R.F. Kuang. Now R.F. Kuang has been a booktube sweetheart since a very long time. Her popular series were loved by everybody who loves to read fantasy. Her Babel was again on top of everybody's top 10 books of last year, and whoever read it rated it higher among the first 3 of their best books. So it was no surprise that the Yellow Face had extreme hype associated with it. In Yellow Face, we get to know the main protagonist who inappropriate somebody else's script, who was a frenemy, a so-called friend, but she was very jealous of her because of her success. So as a writer, she took her script and made it her own, and the story progressed from there. This has extremely interesting conversations about race, cultural appropriation, injustice of publishing industry, etc., and it did touch all of those topics, but the story still remained very enjoyable. It kind of let you think and digest the topics and the topics yourself, so that you can further do a research to understand what she is really talking about. All in all, a very enjoyable read. R.F. Kuang's writing is to die for, and I will be picking her the Babels as soon as this month gets over. So I'm very excited about that one. I also gave this book a 5-star. The next book I want to talk about is the most hyped book ever, and I have a reading blog dedicated to this one on my channel. This is The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I must say the hype is real for me. Just think The Bachelor or Hunger Games, but between very hot young adults. So the love triangle was very interesting in this one, and I think it will stay interesting. The conflicts were hard but resolved easily. The story is about 20-year-old Waldet Sorengale, who wanted to go in the Skype quadrant, but her commanding general of the army in the kingdom, and she wanted her to go to the riders quadrant and become a dragon rider. So this is a story of how a frail and becomes a fourthling dragon rider, and how she finds love in the process. It is a romantasy. It is a chosen one story. If you have read one, you will be able to recognize all the tropes. It's that on the nose, but that being said, this is extremely enjoyable, and I loved the story in this one. Now the dragons in the book, let's come to the dragons in the book. The dragons in the book are amazingly positioned. They are not just there for face value, but a dragon rider and the bonding between a dragon and a dragon rider is really touching, and the way they have been depicted is engrossing. So I can go on and on about each and every aspect of the book, but I already have a vlog on this book, which I'll link up here. This one got 5-star. Now the last and definitely the best book I read last month is A Lesson in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. In this story, Elizabeth Zott in 1960s is an unapologetic feminist who wants nothing else but her research and to face through and come out as a victor and be recognized as a power to reckon with at the Hastings Research Center. So what happens next takes her life by storm. This book can encourage all the kinds of conversations I would love to have, and you too. Her unpredictable nature plus where the story moved just bowled my heart away, and the conversations in this book are really really necessary, and I feel like a better feminist after reading this one. So that's how strongly I felt for this. Midway through there was some depiction of grief which kind of pulled on my heartstrings, but the best part about Elizabeth Zod was that she felt like a person of real flesh and bone, and her machinations of working were interesting and very give it to the society sorts, and I absolutely loved it. So if you are going to take away a book from this list, let it be this one. This is the best book I have read maybe in the year so far. A absolute 5-star. So those were all the books I wanted to talk to you guys about. Let me know in the comments down below any books that you want me to read or any books that you want me to review. Also, if you read any one of them. Like and subscribe if you like what I do over here. I'll see you with another video soon. Bye bye.